Lord, praise the Lord. Welcome, welcome. New Life in You is on, and we're thrilled and honored you're watching. I'm Pastor Chris Akins, lead pastor of New Life, and honored. We don't take this lightly. We don't take this for granted. What an honor it is to be able to share God's Word with you. We know you could be watching so many other things, but thank you that you're watching this program, and I believe without a doubt you'll be tremendously blessed for it, and your life will be changed in a powerful way for the glory of God. So stay tuned and tell somebody New Life in You is on. If you've been watching lately, the past few weeks, you know why. If you're watching for the very first time, welcome, and we're thrilled and excited because we're going to kind of wrap up tonight on the past few weeks of series with our good friend Dave Glander of Truth Ministries. His website's truthministries.tv, who was a former atheist, bound by many things that God delivered him from, as God's delivered us all from. But he has really has a testimony that we could spend the whole program on with that. But a former atheist now studying apologetics, defending the Christian faith that he used to make fun of, but now he's defending. It's amazing how God has turned his life around. He has a wonderful, wonderful truth museum that I'm excited is coming to New Life. And that's what I want you to be aware of. We've been talking about different artifacts, different things, bringing the Bible to life over the past few weeks. And tonight we're going to do that as well as we conclude for this segment of programs. But we'll have Dave back again very soon, and we'll pick it back up. But May the 15th, write this down, May 15th through May 17th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon, is going to be Bringing the Bible to Life, the Truth Museum. It's going to be held at New Life Praise Center, our church at 587 Webb Gen House Road in Lawrenceville. It is going to be life-changing. We're calling it a weekend experience because the museum, this is a museum. Dave has got so many artifacts. It takes at least 1,800 square feet, and actually he needs more room now because he's got more stuff coming in, but it's at least 1,800 or more square feet of artifacts, biblical artifacts that bring the Bible to life. So we said it last week in a funny way, but it's truth. If you can't go to Jerusalem, as we all would love to go, and that brings the Bible to life for sure, you can come to New Life and see the Bible come to life with all the artifacts that God has blessed this ministry with Dave with, May 15th through the 17th. The museum hours will be from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Friday night. Saturday, the museum will be open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. throughout the day, and Sunday afternoon as well. You'll see the times on the website I'm about to tell you, but here's the exciting thing too. Not only will the museum be open so that your youth group, yourself, your family, your church, your congregation can walk through and see all these artifacts and see the Bible and all the description of these artifacts, and it bounce and just hit you right there and show the Bible come to life. Dave will also be doing presentations, and he'll be teaching on certain examples of those artifacts, certain things that will absolutely revolutionize your life. The Shroud of Turin will be there. Only one of the 5 replicas that Dave has, it'll be there. He'll be giving a presentation a couple of times during that weekend. He'll be doing that for our New Life Church family Sunday morning at 10:30. About forgot what time we start. 10:30. But also he will be doing a presentation on the end times. And let me tell you, we're living in the end times. You can study and see the end times. So I'm just giving you a little taste. We're wanting to whet your appetite, so to speak, of what this Truth Museum is going to be about. What do I do, Pastor Chris? I'm glad you asked. You go to eventbrite.com. Eventbrite.com, and what you do is when you're on eventbrite.com, you go to the search section, you'll type this in: New Life Truth Museum, Bringing the Bible to Life. New Life Truth Museum, Bringing the Bible to Life. Type that in when you go to eventbrite.com. You will see the ticket prices, you'll see the times and the presentation of those times, of those artifacts and certain things, as well as the museum times that it will be open. And the wonderful thing is the ticket prices, I mean, they're so cheap. I think it's like $12 per day for a person. If you have 10 or more, it's just $5 a person if it's 10 or more. How awesome that is for your youth group or your school group. Or if you got a family, that's 10 or more. You know, there you go. You can have a great discounted rate. But the good thing is these funds are going to help with the gospel. It helps Dave and his ministry even get more artifacts and hopefully one day get more of a permanent location for all this stuff to be on display all the time and not just be a traveling biblical museum. It'll also help us at New Life with things that we're trying to get done for the glory of God. It's all for Jesus. And so it'll help get the gospel out. It'll help get things done that will bring glory to the Lord, and it'll also make the Bible come to life. So with all that said, Dave, bless you. It's been an honor having you. It's been an honor. We're thrilled you're here. Pastor Ben, he's the youth pastor at New Life. Him and his wife do an awesome job. Real quick, Pastor Ben, greet the folks who don't know you, because a lot of folks say, I'm looking for a good youth group. Tell them why they need to come to New Life.
Well, it's like you said, Pastor Chris. It's all about Jesus. And that's what we do with our youth group, is we try to train these kids up. We want them to live it, learn it, share it, live that lifestyle Christianity. We're so excited that Dave and Truth Ministries is going to be a part of that coming up in the 15th through the 17th. It's going to be awesome. Yes, we invite you, young people, Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock, we have our youth services. We got praise and worship band. We've got discipleship classes. We've got all kinds of things, Bible studies that go on throughout the week. We have a special service on the third Sunday of every month where we have the high school and the middle school working together. We believe in that. The older ones mentoring the younger ones, and so on and so forth. But yeah, absolutely, man. We're excited about what God's doing in our area, what God's doing with the body collectively. And we're just excited to be on the show with you guys today. Always learning. These past few episodes, really learning a lot, man.
Well, we're thrilled, and I know and believe you're learning as well. We want you to, and come visit us at New Life as well. We got 16, 17 different nations represented, and God's doing some awesome stuff. For more information on the church, go to our Facebook page, which is, when you're on Facebook, type in search for New Life Praise Center, Lawrenceville, Georgia. That'll bring up our Facebook page. But with no further ado, Dave. It's an awesome. Here is a former atheist who's now a revivalist, an evangelist, a youth pastor.
I'm going to start using that a little more.
Yeah, I mean, you're just bringing revival everywhere you go, because you're literally, God's using you to bring the Bible to life.
I'm excited, man.
And we're excited. We've been talking about some of the artifacts, and you brought some, and we went through that. But we're also been talking about the presentations that'll be happening for this weekend experience with the Truth Museum, May 15th through the 17th at New Life. And so one of those we want to go back to for just a few moments is the end times presentation. The presentation on the end times. We just barely scratched the surface. It's a 2-hour presentation. We were talking about ISIS, how that has risen up. It's obviously a doctrine of demons. It's our birth from the bowels of hell. We as Christians need to know how to respond. You talk more about that and how that affects us in the end time. Let's pick back up on that presentation, because you got a couple more of the things you want to show us.
I absolutely believe Daniel was told, poor Daniel, he's given all these visions, and it's like, what does this mean, And I mean, his mind's like, we do the mind, Daniel's like, his mind's blown. He says, what does it mean? And God said, as for you, Daniel, seal up the scroll. You'll go to your end. But then he talks about a people in the time of the end where knowledge would increase, that many would run to and fro to gain understanding. And I really believe what that means is, at the time of the end, what Daniel was given as those visions will begin to unfold. So it's really easy to begin to piece together the end time signs as they begin unfolding in front of you. And you can look at it and go, oh, if you're studied in the scriptures, you can look at what's going on and go, I see what that means, and begin to place things together. So I believe we're living at that time where Jesus said the first time, your forefathers longed to see what you're seeing. That was his first coming. I believe he would be saying to us, amongst other things, that if he was standing here, your forefathers have longed to see what you're seeing, because we're seeing the very foundations of what his second coming is going to be set under. We're seeing that. In 1948, with the establishment of the nation of Israel, it began to catapult prophecy. It was impossible for end times prophecy to begin to manifest and show itself prior to Israel becoming a nation, because you have to have location. You have to be in Israel, you have to have control of Jerusalem, and you have to have control of the Temple Mount. In order that the third and final temple that we know will be standing, because he who who is the Antichrist, will stand on the wing of the temple, proclaiming himself to be God. And as Daniel and Jesus reference, the abomination of desolation, where he proclaims himself to be God, there has to be a temple standing in order for us to be in that time period.
Right.
Well, guess what? We have a nation of Israel in 1948. In 1967, two things happened. One, they recaptured the city of Jerusalem. You know what's in the middle of Jerusalem? The Temple Mount. You know who holds the deed to the Temple Mount? There's a little known fact. The Israelites actually hold it. They allow the Waqf to govern it, the Islamic Police Society over the Temple Mount to govern the Temple Mount, right? But that's a grant. Will grant you permission to govern the Temple Mount. They actually own it, and I can prove that because twice just in the past 8 months, there's been an Islamic person who's gone out and hit somebody with a stone. The police start chasing them. They chase them up onto the Temple Mount. Do they stop when they get to the gate? No. They'll chase them right up onto there. Why? Because the Israeli police have the authority to go up there and do that because they're the rightful owners of the Temple Mount. It's been since AD 70. I can make an argument to say that the Temple Mount really didn't even belong to the Jews at the time of the Romans when Jesus was there. They allowed them permission, just like Israel allows the Islamic Waqf to govern that. The Romans were allowing the Jews this portion of the Temple Mount back in Jesus' first time. I could make the same argument to say that Israel in this time owns it for the first time since the Babylonian, first the Assyrian, and then the finality of the Babylonian takeover. So, I mean, it's the first time in 2,600 years that we actually are in a time period that we can do that. But there's a few weird things that are going on. Remember when Jesus said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the coming of the Son of Man." I'm kind of giving away part of my goods here at the end of my presentation. But he says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be with the coming of the Son of Man." Well, what's a little known fact, and this is a fact, you can go Google it. I challenge everybody, be a Berean Christian. That's one of my favorite sayings. Don't just take my word for it. You know, the Bereans listened intently to what Paul was saying, but then they went and they checked and examined the scriptures to see if what Paul was saying was true.
Right.
Do that. Don't just listen to somebody and, okay, they said so. So don't listen to what I'm about to say. You go examine it yourself. Yeah. So what's little known is the Israeli calendar we're a Gregorian calendar, right? They run on a lunar calendar, but it's actually a unique calendar that tries to synchronize the lunar and solar calendars. Well, what happens is it takes a 19-year period for the lunar cycle, the time that the moon's going around the Earth, and the sun I know it's going to get a little crazy. The Earth is going around the sun, right? That's a solar calendar. The moon's going around the Earth. That's a lunar calendar. It takes a 19-year period for those two to align themselves again and start the process over again. Okay? So they run on a 19-year lunar cycle. At the beginning of the lunar cycle, whatever that year was, that's the period of that 19-year cycle until it starts over again. The current cycle that we're living in started in 1998, which was the year 5758. On the Israeli calendar, right, on the Jewish calendar. It's a little funny. Follow with me. Numbers in the Hebrew context also have, our alphabet has a numerical value placed on it. So the numbers actually have a word meaning behind them. You can actually spell them out. And 5758 is Hav, Tev, Shin, Nun, Chet, right? And what that means is the season of Noah.
Wow.
Okay? The season of Noah was 5758 if spelled out in the Hebrew. And as I said, go Google it yourself. You can find out when you check that out. It's actually a really cool explanation on how they get the 19 years. But at the beginning of that 1998 5758 calendar switch, we started what's known as the season of Noah. We're in a 19-year cycle that we're living as in the days of Noah, so it will be in the coming of the Son of Man.
Wow.
You know when that ends? 2017. I'm not date setting. I'm not date setting. I'm not even trying to. I don't know when Jesus is coming. I'm just telling you, we're living in a very unique period that people, listen, man, I start off my presentation with kind of a shock and awe approach, because my thought on the matter is, if you read your paper and you see the 21 beheaded Egyptian Christians, my gosh, that's really bad. Then you go about your day. 2 weeks later, you read about an Iranian nuclear agreement that's coming to a close. Oh my gosh, that's bad. Then you go another 2 months and you read, and you spread out the information over a long period of time, and it's just kind of numbing. It's like, okay, yeah, this is bad out there. Boy, it's getting bad, isn't it? When you take all of the pieces and put them all together at the exact same time, it's a shocker.
Yeah.
It'll shock you to see where we're at. And so that's why it's a 2-hour presentation, is because I want to build a foundation. I want to start back at 1948, and I want us to build up from how Israel became a nation and the miraculous nature of that, show you how close. I mean, the Sanhedrin's already put the Levitical priesthood back in order. You know, there's a Y chromosome that belongs just to the genetic haplotype of the Kohanim priests, which are the Levitical priests, and only in this time period do we have the scientific ability to check the DNA. And God said to the Levites, I will mark you out. He said to Aaron, I will mark you out for all eternity as a priest unto me. I will mark you out. There's a marker, the genetic haplotype, there's a Y chromosome that's off, that's unique only to the Levitical, that's not even in the Jewish males, it's only in the Levitical Jew. We can know for a fact, scientifically, that we have the priesthood back in order. They've been training since the 80s.
It's amazing.
I mean, man, you know, I mean, that's okay. But here's another one that's often overlooked, I think. And as I said, we're living at this unique time when things are going to start to unfold that might start to twist or contort a prior understanding. And part of that is we talked about in the last episode, we touched on the fact that a lot of people say the Antichrist is coming out of Rome. And for many reasons, it just doesn't work. We touched on the fact that the Islamic kingdom is a much better explanation all the way around. I mean, the little known fact, the Islamic kingdom started when Abraham decided not to listen to God and took Hagar to be his mother of his child. Ishmael comes out of that. Ishmael is the father of Islam. The battle between Ishmael and Isaac, between Islam and Israel, has gone on for 2,600 plus years. That's been going on. Longer than that, 3,000 years. It's been going on. That's a little known fact. 3,500 years, now that I'm actually processing the history, 3,500 years this battle's been going on. Rome was probably the nicest kingdom to Israel. They let them have their Temple Mount, let them have their temple laws. Out of all history, Rome was a nice one. And you're going to tell me Rome's going to be the one that comes out of this to push? I don't think so. This battle between Ishmael and Isaac is going to come to a head. And I think it's going to come to a head in the end. Well, when we read Revelation chapter 13, we get into the, you know, this requires a mind with wisdom. And I'm not saying this is it. What I'm saying is I actually fall on a great trust in Walid Shoebat. I love Walid Shoebat. He is a former radical Muslim, radically converted to the Christian faith, and is a great scholar. I mean, talk about going deep into stuff. Walid Shoebat will go deep. He's doing some studying, and he realizes something when he gets back to the actual Greek, and he gets into the wording, you know, the number of the man. Well, that number can be translated, it's this requires a mind with wisdom to make a judgment about the number of the man. Well, that word number is something like arithmetos or something like that in the Greek, and it means, and it could mean multitude. It could mean a single number, like a designated number, or it could mean a number of people came over my house.
Right, I got you.
It's not. It might be 2 people. It might be 200 people. When you just say a number of people were at the church this past weekend for the event, we don't know that number. It could be. So that's what it's looking at. So when he starts getting all the way down to that, he gets down to the Greek 666, and he's looking at it, and he sees something very unique. Most of what John was writing was in the Greek. When he gets down to that 666, if he switched to Arabic at that time, which wouldn't have been, some of the New Testament's written in Arabic in parts and stuff. If he switches to Arabic, it's actually Bismillah. Because Arabic, it's weird. All languages fall towards Jerusalem. If you go off to the east, everything's written from right to left. If you go off to the west, everything's written from left to right. It all goes right back to Jerusalem. It's a very strange fact about written language. If it went to the Arabic, it's actually if you read it, I mean, he looked at it and said, that's Bismillah, which means in the name of God, in the name of Allah, right? So that's, and then there's 2 crosses. I wish I had it. Well, here's the thing. These are actual headbands. This is from Hezbollah, which hangs out down in Gaza. This is from this is Hamas here, which hangs out in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah does, and this is from Hamas. And you'll notice on both of them, you've got this what's called a Bismillah that's on both of them, which means in the name of God, or if it may be in the will of God. Okay, that is the Shahada, which means that they need to take an oath. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger.
Wow.
Here's what they're doing. They're strapping these to their heads and to their right arm. They're tying them to their right arm. He will cause everyone, great and small, remember, to receive a mark. And we look at that mark, and I'm not saying it might not be a microchip, because it very well, I believe that's a very, very, very good point, but I think it's a spiritual note. And it's going to be, they're going to make a mark or a covenant or an agreement, you know, because it's going to be a spiritual nature. It's not going to be, it's not a number, a person's number. It's not a pin number.
Right.
It's not a person. It's his number. Look at his number. And it's going to be attached to something. And I think John was told to write what he sees.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
Write down everything that you see. And John gets to this point, and like I said, in the presentation, I'll unpack it a little bit more. He gets to this point where he says, look at the multitude of this guy who is in the name of Bismillah, in the name of Allah.
Right.
And if that interpretation works, and I'm not saying it does, I'm just saying it makes a great deal of sense, then that makes absolute sense. These guys are having to take an oath saying, I dedicate my life to Allah, which means that they can continue to live. In the prior episode, we talked about this symbol Nun. And it's the Nazrani or Nazarene for the Christians over in the Middle East. They're called Nazarenes, and when they do that, what they're told is you can't stay here anymore, or you can take the Shahada and you can say, Allah, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. And it's a two-part confession, kind of like our salvation confession.
Right.
It's a two-part confession to say, take the mark. If you confess the mark, you can stay, you can eat, you can live.
And if you don't, you're beheaded.
You're beheaded. And then what does Revelation talk about? All the martyrs who were beheaded for their faith that are crying out to God, oh God, how long will you wait to pay back justice? You see what I'm saying? Like everything is coming to a point. It's coming to a point. I almost called the presentation one signature away, because I honestly believe that we're one pen swipe away from an agreement that the Antichrist is going to make with Israel to reinstate the daily sacrifice. That's what it's going to come down to. They need, little do they know, not only is the priesthood in order, the priestly clothing, and I've got all pictures of all this in my presentation. The garments are done, all of the implements are done. The menorah's even been recreated and moved to the Western Wall Museum, which is steps away from the Temple Mount, and that was the Old Testament presence of Christ in the tabernacle, right? So the presence of Christ in the tabernacle is steps away from the Holy of Holies, and all they're waiting for is the waters of purification so that they can go and ordain the holy spot, build around the holy spot, and build the temple. That's all they're waiting for. They have it even comes down to a red heifer, and there's several red heifers in line. But they can't do it, because if they do it, PETA's going to be all over and be like, you can't go sacrificing animals and painting their blood on the side of altars, and you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be looked at like there's some kind of weird cult. So when the Antichrist comes, he's going to say, look, you guys can reinstate your daily sacrifice. I will watch out over you, so for any critics that come, you'll have my protection against that. And he's the same one that when he comes to stand on the wing of the temple, because that temple has to be there, puts a stop to the daily sacrifice and proclaims himself to be God. The one who stops the sacrifice is the same one who reinstated it. Do you know the cornerstone's even been moved up to the Western Wall? The cornerstone of the new temple is there. Everything is in place. We're literally one signature away. There's one prophecy that doesn't necessarily make sense, and it talks about Israel being a city attacked without walls. And there's a wall that Ariel Sharon began fortifying the wall years ago, but there's a wall all the way around Jerusalem. Well, man, it doesn't take any time to knock down a wall. The Berlin Wall showed us that. You get a couple of rock bands together and some good charity work together and sit there and have a concert, and the next thing you know, the wall's coming down. So that's the only prophecy I found that doesn't line up with where we are today. And I think the Berlin Wall proved that that's not really an issue. That's how close we are, Chris. But here's why. So what is the point? If we only had a limited amount of time, how much more should you be fired up about sharing your faith?
That's good,
exactly.
Man.
How much more should you be out there speaking to your friends and your family and your loved ones and the people that you care about? I love Penn Jillette. Have you ever seen that, the Penn and Teller, the magicians out in Las Vegas? Well, Penn Jillette does this little, he's got his phone, and his world's rocked. This guy came up after a show and said, really enjoyed your show, take this Bible. And he said, I've had Bibles given to me 100 times. People know I'm an outspoken atheist. But he goes, there was something about this guy. He did it with this love. You could see the Holy Spirit was trying to work his way in there. But he looks at the camera and he says, look, if you really believe in a hell, how bad would you have to hate somebody to not proselytize them?
Wow.
That's coming from an atheist, dude. That's not saying, I love it when you proselytize me. What he's saying is, if you really believe in that, you would have to hate somebody to not tell them about it. Wow. And so my world was rocked. And so prophecy for me, I've been studying it since the day I got saved. That funny story we did a couple episodes ago about first book I ever read out of the Bible was Revelation. I started on this journey, and it has kept me on fire for evangelism since day one.
Absolutely.
I can't not be concerned with the times running out. And I've got a really cool story I kind of relate that to back in my heathen days when I do the presentation that helps kind of put skin on that. So.
Absolutely. Wow. Mind-boggling. I mean, this is what we want you to understand. This stuff will change your life. Hear what Dave was just talking about. Look how close we are. That's why we want you to get your youth group. We want to get want you to bring your congregation pastor, bring your family. Get here to the Truth Museum, May 15th through the 17th. Pastor Ben, we just got just a minute or so left. Give a closing comment as well and encourage the people, if you would, to come.
Just want to encourage you guys. It's time to take a look. It's time to take a hard look. If you haven't dug in and everything's coming to an end and you're not sure about where you stand eternally, and this Christianity thing just may be true, might be true. Guys, I want to beg you, take the time to look. This is a great opportunity that we have here. We want to answer your questions. We want you to come with questions because, you know, to those who seek truth, guys, you're going to find it.
Amen.
And you'll find it wrapped in love.
Amen.
Just like what he was talking about with Penn and Teller, man. There's no mistaking the love of God. And He wants to reveal Himself to you.
Yes.
He is the greatest thing. He's above it all, man. And I'm telling you, we talked about this a few episodes ago. There's nothing like living a life in Christ. There's nothing that's better. So come, guys, please. Bring your questions. Bring your kids, bring whoever you can. Call them up. Dave, you said you've had people that if they knew what was going to be there, they would have asked people to fly in.
That's the number one.
This is a big deal, guys. There's nothing bigger. So come and be a part. We want to encourage you guys.
It is huge, and we want you to be a part of it. What do? Go to eventbrite.com. When you're on that website, type in New Life Truth Museum, bringing the Bible to life. It'll take you to the page to get your tickets, to purchase your tickets, get the information, and those presentation times. Like Dave was just giving us a little foretaste of what, like one of those presentations, you can be a part of that, and I know it will change your life. Jesus, we thank you, Lord, you're the way, the truth, and the life, the only way to the Father. You are who you say you are. Your Word is alive and well because you are the Word. Bless everyone that are watching right now. Thank you for your peace, your strength, and your joy. In Jesus' precious name, amen. We sure love you. We thank God for you. Tune in next week. Make sure you go to eventbrite.com. Get all that information. Don't miss out on the Truth Museum. We love you. Until next time, God bless you. Have a great, great night.